and gentlemen, how's everybody doing tonight? I hope that y'all are thoroughly enjoying yourselves. I am here with the eminent, amazing Jon Esca. And Jon is here to answer all of your... Well, actually, I'm here to answer too. So, let's see. I think we probably should wait just a moment for the viewers to up just a little bit, because I know there are folks in here. Oh, we got two. Got two, Jon. Two. It's gonna be fantastic.
All right, that's more than I expected. So,
right? It's like, oh my god, they showed up. It's amazing. So for the two of you that are there, thank you for showing up. It is really fantastic for you to be here. All right, so looks like we've got Optimized Drone and Hummingbird UAV. They get all the questions tonight. It's very fantastic. Okay, Jon, I'm going to start us off with a question that may or may not be good. What happens if you are about to live stream and you come in and everything's broken? You left it in a fine state. And approximately, let's just hypothetically say, 15 minutes before you're supposed to go live, you get in and it doesn't work. What do you do then?
Yeah, that's when you hope you have some sort of an IT background and you just start going through the troubleshooting list.
Right.
Or you just decide to delete your YouTube channel right there. That's the only two options.
I think you're totally right. And honestly, I feel like if I just deleted my YouTube channel, there would be a lot of people that would cheer. Actually, there would be some people. There'd be some people that would be sad. Yeah. So I mean, the funny thing was, like, Jon and I literally recorded something earlier today. It's how I put the teaser video together, and we get 15 minutes before. I'm like, all right, everything's ready. We're set. And boom, my camera won't connect and it's doing some bizarre thing. And I'm like, oh my God, what happened? So I did, in fact, try to troubleshoot and eventually just unplugged everything, moved the computer, plugged everything back in, and it worked. And that does not make me feel very good, actually. It's like,
I was going to say, did you unplug it and plug it back in again?
Well, I had already I have two computers here. I'd restarted both of them multiple times, plugged everything into both of them multiple times. And then once I moved it just worked. So go figure. All right. So for those of you that are here, we definitely really appreciate that. The whole point of this, and Jon and I have been talking about this for a while, is to be able to allow y'all to ask questions if you have any questions about YouTube. Jon and I have been doing this for quite a bit of time now. Both of us have had success in different areas. I think Jon is generating far more revenue than I am. But it is really interesting trying to get into YouTube because there's boatloads of information out there and it's really hard to figure out what's good and what's not. And so for us, we've kind of walked this path before a little bit. It's not like either one of us is like a giant YouTuber, but we have, viewers or subscribers in the thousands, and we both have made money off of it. So maybe there's some things we can answer for you if, you're trying to get into it. Hold on. I believe that Mike Bergman is the most appropriate person to speak right now. Though I will say that Optimized Drone has said he would be sad if I deleted my channel. So
see, I knew there was at least one person.
Right. All right. So seriously, I am going to, I'm going to ask some seed questions. All right. So, Brandon Baked Beans, which that's Brandon's Baked Beans. Do you have a dog? Is there a dog that kind of goes? No, that's bushes. My bad. So one thing I do want to say is we can absolutely answer FPV questions, but we do want this to be generally available to a larger group of people. So to that end, we did make note of it in the No Small Creators channel, which I'm wearing some of their merch right now. You can't really see it because it's subtle. And so we'll definitely answer FPV questions. We want to start off on YouTube. Trolled the troll. That's right. Okay. So, Jon, I am not sure if I want to start YouTube. Why would I want to start YouTube? And if I did, what would I hope to get out of it?
Well, um, I really think it's just kind of a creative outlet, something to do. It's a way to document if you have an interest or a hobby, or a lot of times, if you want to learn something better yourself, explaining it to other people is kind of the easiest way to go about it. And so, what for me, what made me want to start doing it is I did have a background in taking a lot of video production and writing classes several
Mm-hmm.
years ago, and I kind of just didn't have time for that anymore. I
Mm-hmm.
started getting into flying drones, and I found that I was watching a lot of reviews, and after a while, I was like, you know what? I have everything that I've seen on these reviews. Why am I not just turning on my camera? I have all the gear still sitting around
Mm-hmm.
for a few minutes and just talking, and I didn't really expect much out of it. And I think if you have those low expectations when you get started,
Mm-hmm.
then you can hopefully, decide if it's for you or not. There's really no commitment as far as buying stuff. I don't recommend anybody go out and decide they want a YouTube channel and spend like thousands of dollars. If you have a cell phone, you can get started. Um, I recorded, even though I had like tripods and gimbals and mics and lights, I recorded probably my first 20 or 30 videos with just my cell phone because
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of work to get all that stuff going. And I found
Mm-hmm.
myself thinking about doing stuff, talking about doing stuff, and never actually doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of a common theme. If you're thinking about doing it and you find yourself a year goes by or months go by and you still haven't done it, why? Can you strip away some of that and just do it? And maybe you make a couple of videos, decide it's kind of boring, not for you.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really cost anything. So
Yeah.
I think if you have something to say, something to talk about, or an interest to document,
Mm-hmm.
then why not have a crack at it?
So, all right, so we have some great questions, and we'll jump into that in a sec. I do want to answer this question myself. Um, I am like a serial kill. No, not sorry, wrong sport. Uh, I am. Uh, I have gotten into different social media platforms to be able to just figure out how they work. And so, initially it was Facebook, and Facebook's relatively simple. I did a lot of stuff with Twitter. Twitter's really hard. Um, and to this day, like I don't know all the rules, right? Like, how do you go viral? And I've been viral on Twitter. Um, but then I jumped into Instagram, and then eventually I jumped into YouTube. And YouTube was the most satisfying for me. And one of the things that I've learned throughout this is cereal. Mike Bergman, man, has got it on point. One of the things that really has been interesting about YouTube for me, so I'm a software engineer, and I consider the ability to code or the ability to troubleshoot, which is, coding is just kind of a different take on troubleshooting sometimes, to be a crucial skill in modern society. You are If you can do that, there's a lot of things you can unlock. And much to my surprise, I found that making videos is also a very crucial skill because it allows you to communicate at a level that you would not be able to communicate with just words. Um, and so, like, I don't know how many of the folks here actually saw the teaser that I put up, but it took John and I 5 minutes to film it, and it I cut it into pieces. I cut John saying terrible, awful things. And then, because I know how Facebook and a lot of other things work, I put words at the bottom and they actually follow the head around. And the reason I did that is because most people are not going to listen with the audio on. So I'm giving them all the information. It's actually interesting. There's a lot of research and studies that if you see a word, you will read it. It will become internalized. It's actually an interesting technique to figure out if somebody speaks a different languages. They'll hold up the color red and put the color blue on top of it. And it turns out, or they'll put like a red blue word, and you can actually trick people into saying the word as opposed to the color. So, anyways, all that to say, video is an incredible communication skill, and learning how to tell a good story is a good communication skill. And so for me, YouTube has been a great way to develop my communication skills. So, anyways, long story. All right. So I feel like Flying Francis asked a fantastic question. How often do you look at stats or figure out what to shoot, John? Actually, hold on.
That's something I
Let's
still.
talk about stats first because I feel like
Yep.
this is actually two
Mm.
interesting questions.
Okay, so stats. I look at my analytics probably more than is
Healthy.
a good thing to do. Like the amount of times per day that I'm looking at my analytics is, most people would say, unhealthy. I just can't. I get
Okay.
addicted to those numbers, to the data, and I just keep doing it like constantly almost.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if I have a free second, I'm walking down the hallway, my phone's out, I'm just seeing like, okay, what are the numbers at for today's video? What has it done? And it's I still don't have everything figured out. You know, like sometimes I have a little bit better idea in 2021, but there's been times where I thought this is going to be awesome. There's going to be everyone watching this, and it's just garbage.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a few times where I just made something as a placeholder where I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have anything else to shoot, and I just talked for a few minutes about a concept, and then it had more views than anything else on my channel, and I thought it was a garbage video. So
Didn't you do that with the FPV vlog?
yeah, that one was the guys in my local community were urging me for a while, like, no one's making racing content,
Mm-hmm.
make a racing video, you know, come on. And uh, I don't think anybody watches them, for
Mm-hmm.
one, and then two, they're hard for me to make because when I go out to a race day, I want to actually fly. I want to participate in the hobby that my
Mm-hmm.
channel's about,
Yeah.
rather than documenting the day,
Mm-hmm.
because then it turns into I'm a videographer for the day,
Yep.
but I actually want to do the hobby so I have something to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a fine line. Like Johnny Fly, who's another channel, a racing channel,
Mm-hmm.
he was like, you know, he was like, he's like the Spielberg of racing vlogs. Like he can do both at the
Mm-hmm.
same time,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't. And like, so I would be sitting in my chair, not talking to anybody, waiting for my next turn to race.
Mm-hmm.
And so that one actually did surprisingly well. So I'm already working on another one. I'm going to try to do one a month, and we'll see how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's tough. I mean, I know certain products are going to be big. There's certain brands, Catalyst Machine Works, Armatan, Team Black Sheep, DJI, anything that those companies release, I know if I can get my hands on it early enough, a lot of people are going to tune in for that.
Yep.
And then there's certain things that are like chargers. Nobody cares about chargers, and nobody watches videos about chargers. So
Right. Yeah. Zach's. I just want to bounce back to this. Zach Silvestri. He nails it back to the reading words. Yeah. If you look at the word red written in blue ink, you will say red. It's actually, and like I said, when I learned that, I was like, "What? Like seriously?" But that's actually like an interrogation tactic where you can actually figure out if somebody speaks a different language based on their answers. Yeah, I know. For me, man, I have gone like I have a love hate relationship with stats. First off, I think they're unhealthy. Like straight up, I think that they're unhealthy because they're a proxy for what you really are trying to look for, right? So at the end of the day, you're looking for engagement and you're looking for interest. And the only tools that we're given to be able to determine interest and engagement are these numbers. And so the numbers themselves become the goal. Where the goal really isn't that. The goal is to I mean, you know, the goal can be different for people. I know for me, I wanted to be famous. Straight up. I'll tell everybody. Ultimately, I found out that wasn't as fantastic as I thought it was. I'm not even famous, and I found my way through quite a few shitstorms. But the stats can lead to a lot of unhealthy behaviors. It did for me. You know, to deriving your worth out of a number. It doesn't. It's not good, right? And so, like, I've had days where, you know, I would put on 10, 15, 20, 100 subscribers for a while, and then all of a sudden I lose 7, and that 7 crushes me, right? It doesn't matter that my numbers are doing this. All that I see is a negative number.
Mm.
and it's hard for me to do. So yeah, I do look at my stats. I don't do it very often. If I release a video, I'll go check out kind of how it's doing, but oftentimes I go, Mike, can you turn your microphone up a little, please? Yes, Jack Fu, I can. Let's see, input. All right, there we go. Am I louder? Test, 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 test. No, that's the mix. Hold on, give me one sec. No, that's that. I wonder why my mic's not loud. Hold on, let me just check. I'll keep answering.
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah. For me, they're just not healthy. Unfortunately, they're just not healthy. Oh, that's why. There, I bet that's a whole lot better. Is that better? Test, test, test. All right. Well, unfortunately, things are not working the way they should. All right, Jack Fu, let me know. Okay. All right, great. So, anyways, now there was a second part to that question, and it's actually followed up by, so what to shoot, and then let's see, where is my friend? Travis Stevens, who says, "How do you avoid being cliche? I like that Jon does his own thing and adds a comedic twist." I feel like both of those questions are actually getting to the point of how do you define your style and what do you focus on? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, like I said back in the day when I was watching tons and tons, when I have a habit of collecting hobbies. And so over the years, I'd have hobbies sometimes that would last just a few months. For a while, I had this weird hobby of like painting Transformers to try to make them look like more movie accurate.
More
And I
than
would
meets the
sit in my
eye.
living room and do it. Like, and then, other times it'd be like, car stuff or videographer stuff. And when I started getting into FPV, I was watching a lot of content, and a lot of it just seemed so boring. And it was like, you would get the information, but it was like that droopy dog, just like a monotone voice. It seemed like the starter package was somebody would just borrow their wife's blue craft mat and just make a video and
Right?
point at and just read off measurements from the product page. And I was like, what is this? Like, it just
Mm-hmm.
wasn't entertaining or engaging for me. And watching other content on other channels, I was like, I mean, I've taken a lot of public speaking classes. Maybe I can at least not sound monotone. And a lot of people are always saying like, well, I have other interests. I want to make videos about movies or about traveling or about this or that. And to me, it's like you need a channel to be about something, but you bring those other interests into your content. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I have like some of the pop culture references, some of the movie references, or I just try to talk like I would to a friend. Like this is a piece of garbage or this is the best thing ever. Like people
Right.
don't really want to say that, but I'm like, I don't want my friend to buy a piece of junk. And I
Mm-hmm.
like the people that are watching this, I would hope, they would be almost like my friends, so I want to give them good advice and I want it to be somewhat entertaining. But part of it is just making it entertaining for me. And
Mm-hmm.
so the way that I can keep myself engaged is if I'm like, oh, you know what, that drone looks like a transformer, or it looks like, some like I said, the Marmot was like Jorah Mormont from Game of
Mm-hmm.
Thrones, and I was like, it was just a misspelling, and I put a bunch of clips from there, but like that was my own
Mm-hmm.
little joke that was keeping me entertained as I was making the video. And then some people get them, some people don't, but that's kind of what I do. And so that way it doesn't become as much of a chore,
Mm-hmm.
because if you're just checking out products all day, all day, all day, some of them you like, some of them you don't, it just doesn't become fun. So you got to figure out a way to make it fun.
Yeah. Um, I know for me, like I ended up falling sideways. Like I never, like I just kind of engaged with YouTube to just throw a bunch of things at the wall. I didn't know if anything was going to work. I didn't know if I was going to get tired of it. I did. Came back. Um, and for me, like in terms of my style, I fell sideways into it. I ended up interviewing Chad Capper. I've always known that I'm good at asking people questions, but I didn't realize it would really resonate with other people. And so, that took off. And then I did another one and another one and another one. And, here we are now. To your point, though, you talk about keeping yourself interested. Um, the that was one of the big things that really, like, I think anybody that's watched me for a while knows that, like, right around the beginning of COVID, I just pieced out. I was burnout. I was bored. I felt like I just made the same thing over and over and over. It felt like a grind. And eventually I put things in perspective, ended up coming back. One of the things I put into perspective, though, was I want this to be fun and I want to be creative. And there's only so much you can do with an interview, but there's things you can do around the interview. And so as a result, I'm now trying to put little shorts in the front because I love humor. Half the people on my channel think I'm funny. The other half think I'm not funny, and they unsubscribe. So that there is 100% think I'm funny. Yeah, so I've been adding that kind of stuff in, and I put a lot of effort and thinking into the interviews, and I really love the actual interviews. But editing, and then I put a lot of thought into these skits, and editing the skits is much more fun than anything else. So let's see. All right. Hummingbird UAV says, if you look at stats for a video, what is the ratio of views, basically subscribers to viewers?
So for me, I usually have about like 80 to 85% non-subscribed. So
really,
hey, so
really, that's
yeah. So
interesting.
I never really have more than about 80% subscribers watching. So it's mostly non-subscribed. So if you're not subscribed, go subscribe.
Go subscribe to Jon right now.
Yeah.
I'm subscribed, so you should too. Anyways, go on.
But yeah, that's always very interesting. And I'm not really good about telling people to subscribe. I put it in text at the end of the video, but it just doesn't, I never think about it. Like, I don't usually write out what I'm going to say. I just turn on the camera and then whatever comes out, comes out. So, maybe I should do that. More people would subscribe, but I don't know, like anything, if you're interested in learning about a particular product, you're going to go watch a video on that product. And if that's not your number one interest, you may not come back. And I do that a lot too. Like, I'm looking for, whether it's a piece of equipment or a piece of barbecue grill or, whatever, I'll watch a video on that. That doesn't mean that's my new hobby. I probably won't come back to that channel. So I'm guessing that's probably what some of that is. Mm-hmm. And then some people just don't want to get those notification bell emails in their spam box, like, I think that maybe there's a better way to go about that. I don't know.
I know for me, it's my viewer to subscriber ratio is about 50%. And you say, whoa, and it's fantastic that 50% of my subscribers watch on a regular basis. That leaves me far less room to grow. Mm-hmm. And so what that effectively means is that while you have 85% traffic to capitalize on, I only have 50%. Now, it is, at the end of the day, I am certainly not going to complain. But it really, every time I look at that number, I'm like, damn, how do I bring in more people? Like, I would love to see that number go to 1/3 subbed and 2/3 not subbed. So, and then watch them convert. That's what I want to see. That actually brings me to an interesting question, Jon. And I'm asking this for myself, which is, what's your view percentage? Like, if somebody starts a video, what percentage do they typically get through before they fall off? Like, what's the average?
I don't know that off the top of my head. It's different for like every video, it seems, but usually they seem to get through about 25 to 30%, like at the average. And so I'm thinking that's like, I don't know if that average is really that great, because it probably encapsulates all the people that watch to the end and then all the people that click off after 30 seconds. And then the average ends up being somewhere around there, but it usually is around 20 to 30% through. So for me, it's not even, I don't think it's usually even halfway through. Now, certain videos are different, and maybe that's just because I am too long-winded and I just keep talking and talking, and they're like, okay, I got the information I wanted.
I know what you're talking about. I don't have that problem. Yeah, so interestingly enough, mine tends to be about 50%. I can put out an hour long interview and it will be about 50%. I can put out a 5 minute long short and it will be about 50%. Now, I think like you know, part of me wonders if that stat is even useful. I don't know if it is. But it is it's something I've been starting to think about. Like, okay, well, if it is 50%, how many people are watching multiple times? Because I know that recently I've had a lot of people say that they'd start and then they'd stop and come back and stop. So
Oh, yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
ended up watching it a bunch, which is great. But yeah. So, anyways, let's see. M2K FPV has a question. I want to reframe it. So John, you recently did it was a collab with Bardwell. Um, so I want you to be abbreviated on this, but tell me how many subscribers you added as a result of that.
Yeah, the Bardwell effect. So for those that are not in my niche, Bardwell is probably one of the largest
Mm-hmm.
presences in my
Oh,
niche.
good. Thank you for
He's at
confirming.
about what 200,000 subscribers, and I'm like around almost to 5,000.
Is he
And
only at
so I ended up doing a
200,000?
collaboration with him. How it came about was just some light trolling I was doing to him on Facebook, and I was making fun of how I did a review on a product like 2 weeks before he did,
Mm-hmm.
and then he actually responded and came back over the top and was like, all right, let's see how long it takes me to get more views though. And then he was like, it turns out about 2 hours. And so I was like, oh man, he hit me hard with that one. And then something came up that was talking about something annoying. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, look, we should make a top 10 list of most annoying things. And he was like, that would be funny. And I was like, no, I'm for real. So I just kept bugging him and bugging him and bugging him until I would like he was like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah.
So I think he was probably thinking I was just kind of joking, but I was like, this could be a good opportunity, and it was
Yeah.
fun. It was really surreal talking to somebody that I've watched like hundreds of hours of their content. It seems like it was weird talking to somebody for the first time and feeling like I've known them for years. It was like a
Right.
surreal
Yeah.
feeling,
Because you're a fan.
and but that's kind of how that came about. And I ended up adding I think I ended up adding about 6 weeks worth of subscribers in about 3 days.
Yeah.
So normally I would gain about 200 a month, and I think I gained about 300 in a couple of days.
So one of the things I had been thinking about in terms of like what's a good question? What's a question that I think people will ask is, how do you grow your channel? How do you grow your channel? And you know there are lots of interesting tactics, like you know the thing that I had done with uh, being able to you know put the teaser together, which is I learned that in No Small Creator. Posting that to Facebook and Instagram, like that's a good way to build a subscriber base. By far the most effective thing you can do is collab with somebody. Have John on my channel. Anybody that's watching that's a fan of John is possibly going to come here, and if they're not a subscriber to me, they may subscribe. This just happened with Jack Fu. Jack Fu was like, "Hey, I like this guy John. Where's his channel?" So he's now a new sub. And
Thanks, Jack.
one of the things that I realized very quickly is that, yeah, I mean, people will come to see their person somewhere else, and that is where collaborations come in. And because of the nature of what I do, it's kind of like every video is a collaboration. But yeah, if you are interested in starting YouTube, you know, think about collaborations as a really good way to grow. And
Right. And that's a good segue into something I wanted to share. So like collaborating is like trying to get a job at a company that you want. So this applies to other parts of life too, right? You have to be
mhm,
serious about it, and you have to go and tell somebody, like, you can't just say like, hey man, I know you're like 100 times bigger than me, we should do a video together. No, 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 no. You need to be specific. We should do a video
yeah,
about this. This is what it should be about.
mhm,
So in order to get that Bardwell video, I actually created a whole video demonstrating what it could be like. I green screened myself on an Academy Award stage, put on a suit, and I was like acting like I was presenting an award of the most annoying things in FPV. And I was like, this is just, and I uploaded it to YouTube, made it private. Maybe I'll make a video about like that process, but it's like, you got to go the extra mile. If you want a job, you got to, get in contact with that hiring manager. Just have a conversation down the hallway, that elevator ride conversation people talk about, where you can just say a couple of quick things. That's how you go about it. So if you want to do anything like that, you need to have a specific goal and be able to convey that goal very quickly. And so I wasn't just like, hey, we should do a video together. We should do this specific video. Here's the list of things we could do. Just make it happen.
And that is exactly what I do. If I want to interview somebody and I've never approached them before, I do not assume that they know anything about me. I will say, I'll basically start it with, hello, so-and-so. I am a YouTuber in the FPV space. I have a show called the Michael Rollins Show. I think you would be very interesting to interview. Here's what I would like to talk to you about. I always put two things in. And so recently I've really been pushing into, it's still drone related, still mostly FPV, but trying to get into basically interview people that I would not normally think of, right? Like I've interviewed a lot of pilots. What about other people in the industry, right? Like the Kevin Halterman video and the wing. God, I'm sorry, buddy. Your name is David Whidden for Wings. Like both of those guys are pilots, but they're also sim makers, and I feel like sims are playing a very important role. And so, yeah, I've actually reached out to some very, I don't know. We'll see if anything comes of it. But yeah, anytime. I mean, like. If you were to, yeah, and I like the job interview idea, which is like, if you were to just show up, send an email to somebody that's hiring, be like, yo, I think you should hire me. They're absolutely not going to hire you. It's like, why? You have no qualifications. I don't know what you do. And oftentimes in those approach, like I'll do email, messenger. I often ask multiple times. I give examples of my work. And I have also gone the route of making videos. Like when I started trying to get sponsors, and eventually I pulled back on that, but I think I may do it again. I made pitch videos. I said, this is how I want to pitch your products. And I would basically build the whole pitch. And I have a Squarespace website. I would create a private page just for them, put the entire plan on that page along with the video, and send that to them. And everybody was like, absolutely yes. Like nobody said no, which was kind of shocking at the time. But yeah, for sure. So yeah, be to the point. And the other thing I try to do is I try to keep it as brief as possible. Right. I want people to, anything more than 2 paragraphs is too much. So, all right. So Mike Bergman says that you pronounce Vista incorrectly. He said that it is not Vista. It is in fact Vista. Hello, it is Vista. Kat says that you pronounce it. He pronounced it his way. I don't know, Kat. We love you though. Let's see. Okay, so Flying Francis has a good question. Who is your dream collab with, Jon?
Oh man. Collabs are not natural for me. I work in my own little dark room and shoot my videos and make them. And so I would love to eventually like get back on a film set, not necessarily even in a flying capacity, but maybe even in writing or just holding some lights. I mean, anything like that. Probably writing would be the one I would want to do the most. But like if I ever had the opportunity to do that without it taking up like a full-time job's worth of stuff, then I would definitely like to do that. In our niche, in our world,
it doesn't have to be our world.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably what I would like to do. I mean, I'd love to be able to just work on another writing project and, wherever it goes. The little crew I used to work with in town, um, I had a project go and I wrote it, and they picked it as the one they were going to do. It was with a local community college. They got a lot of students involved. They had auditions for actors and all that stuff, but I wasn't experienced enough to direct it. So they got someone else, and they didn't really do that great of a job. So now I kind of understand when writers don't like how their
My daughter
how
made
directors
cookies.
like, yeah, I totally understand that. And so I'd like another crack at it. I was discouraged after that, and I just didn't have enough time to devote. The very next project they worked on went to Sundance, and they invited me to work on it. And I was just like, I don't have time anymore. And so I kind of got out of it. So, but that would be cool.
So if if I could just pick one person in the world to collaborate with, to interview. So I'm gonna call my collaboration an interview. I'm gonna pick Casey Neistat.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you think about your viewers as a market, FPV is a fantastic market. It's just not huge, and so I would be able to broaden my market significantly if I interviewed Casey Neistat or Peter McKinnon. I'll take either one. Matty Hapoya, he's been flying FPV. And so, yeah, Jack Foo's like, you can't keep a straight face, dude. So, yeah, I mean, I would straight up Casey Neistat. Let's go there. So,
yeah, if I had to
right.
pick an actual name, I'd probably go with like Adam. I'd like to go on the Tested show and check out the workshop, Adam Savage's show.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Jack Fu has a point.
No Charpu.
Charpu is, but you got to understand, it would be easier to get Casey than it would be to get Charpu. I want all of y'all to understand that. I have approached the guy through multiple channels. I'm almost at the point where I'm going to email him at his work email because I'm pretty sure I can figure it out. And so, but that feels like a little out of bounds, so I'm still not sure. But yeah, no, Charpu, that dude, he's like a freaking, yeah, he's a ghost. And it's funny because his answer all the time is, I'm not relevant anymore. Nobody wants to hear from me. And it's like, dude, you are history. You will always be relevant. So, let's see. All right, M2K FPV says, Mike, how about an FPV Cop podcast? I actually have everything in place to put all of my interviews out as a podcast. I have not pulled the trigger yet because I am waiting on somebody to do a logo. Seems kind of silly, but I really have decided it's time to brand some of this, and I have a very specific logo in mind. The person that has said they will do it is fantastic, and so I feel like it's worth the wait. What I'll do though is, I think I may have dropped the link in go look at some of my videos descriptions. You may be able to find the link, and I'll even put it in here. So, oh yeah, no, Mike Bergman's also saying join my Patreon. They're all there. They are. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking about changing up the perks of my Patreon to something a little bit different and just making the podcast available to everybody. Now, John, let me talk to you. What I think, here's the question, like what I do is great for a podcast, but where could you diversify into to be able to, expand your market, as it were? Like, have you ever thought about that?
I have. I think until I'm big enough to like have somebody like help out, like an editor or assistant somewhat, I just don't know if it's enough that I can manage. I'm really super cognizant of like how much effort goes into each video. And if I start adding too many things, the plates that are spinning will start to fall. And so, but I do keep that in the back of my mind for future planning. A lot of times people ask me, why don't you just make videos about stuff that people actually watch? Because, drones is kind of a small niche market. Whereas people that do electronics reviews or phones or computers or cameras, a lot more people watch that. And I just don't have the knowledge about those things. They're not my hobby. I know enough about a camera when I want to buy a new one that
Well,
I'll go do some research.
I'm not talking about like what kind of other things could you cover. I'm actually thinking like, and I'm just kind of thinking through it. I'm like, well, you already have this content, right? And it sits on YouTube for the most part. Now, you do also have a lot of other side hustles, which I really admire, like FPV Marketplace. Damn, dude. um, but like, where could you take your content from where it is now and put it somewhere else? Like, would a podcast make sense for you?
Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff I do is so visual. I don't know if it would translate, but
Yeah.
people have talked to me about that, and I just don't know how to get going with it. Like, I'd like to purchase
Mhm.
some ad space somewhere, maybe. I've thought about that, but I don't know where to focus that. The podcast thing, for your content, I could see it definitely going
Yeah, it makes a lot
perfectly.
of sense that way.
Um, but for mine, I'm always saying like, look at the FETs on this electronic speed controller with a real close-up shot, and
Right. Yeah.
it wouldn't go. But like, I could definitely design some longer form. I've thought about maybe just like making a different channel that was just like reading short stories that I've written or something like. But who knows? For now,
Yeah.
this is it. But I mean, I always try to watch what other people are doing. Like Pam in the No Small Creator group, she posted this really long form video about stationery supplies.
Mm-hmm.
But I watched almost the whole thing, and she had this blog post on her own website that had
Yeah.
all of the links and the time codes of each individual pin. And I guess people are like super into these pins, like and they
Mm-hmm.
don't even have to be like Mont Blancs or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Team Black Sheep has a pin that was on the FPV sales alerts group a couple of days ago. But yeah, like that's cool. I'd like to make a website that complements the channel.
Mm-hmm.
That would probably be the first thing I would do.
Yeah, I feel like that is, and that's actually a great way to branch out for you. Hold on one sec. I'm trying to find my podcast here. Uh, there we go. My podcast. Sorry, I am. I'm a terrible host. Let's see. RSS. How do I get people? Damn, I don't know. Let's see. Anyways, I'll sort this out later. Oh, here we go. All right, there we go. I'm putting my podcast in the link. Where are you? There you are. Okay, so Kat has an interesting idea. Could you download shows edits and then post? Yeah, and that's actually Kat. That's what I do. Yeah, I'm not used to live shows. I'm terrible at it. Um, but I have cookies, and that's all that matters. Um, yeah, I mean, John, I feel like your content, I feel like even though a lot of it's visual, I feel like some of it would definitely, like if you just use slightly different wording, I feel like you could describe it enough to show up on a podcast. And then, the cool thing about a podcast is they're a little bit more difficult to monetize, but if you have affiliate links, there you go. So, um, let's see. Oh, Kat had an interesting question. By the way, guys, here's my podcast link. So you guys can go find it. By the way, I feel like I look like a badass in my picture. It's like literally the most pretentious picture I've ever taken. All right. Catch you later says Batman or Superman, John, and why?
So, golly, I probably read and consumed a lot more Batman content for sure, especially the kind of late 80s, early 90s Batman animated series. Definitely watched all of those episodes a couple of times, and there was some equivalent Superman type series. I didn't find myself watching nearly as much of that. And then again, of course, a lot of it's mostly because of Christopher Nolan, but the Batman movies in general are typically far superior, at least post Christopher Reeves, to anything on the Superman side. So I definitely would have to go with Batman there. I don't know how this new Robert Pattinson thing is going to work out. I probably do consume a bit more Marvel. I was subscribed to a lot more Marvel comics growing up than DC,
Mm-hmm.
but I did read quite a bit of Batman comics as well.
Yeah, if you're gonna ask me between Batman and Superman, I'm gonna say Spider-Man because screw DC. because I'm not interested in DC. They make this stupid. I'm sorry, I'm just kidding. I guess Batman's cool, but I'm definitely gonna get Spider-Man every day of the week. I feel like DC takes himself far too seriously, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like I am the Batman, right? And Superman's dun, 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 and it's like, yo, lighten up, bro. Lighten up, man. We think that Superman does fly. That's a pretty cool. That's a pretty cool ability. Uh, but yeah, I'm like Spider-Man's funny and does not take himself seriously. Not unlike me. That's probably why I like him. All right, let's see. John, let's see. Do you have any questions you think would be good to answer? And by the way, y'all toss questions in the chat if you would like to know more. I had questions, but I didn't write them down because I was wrestling with. Okay, Mike Bergman wants to know if you would do a 3D printing series aimed at FPV specific parts and things that would help out all FPV people.
Yeah, for sure. So I've made probably 5 or 6 3D printing videos, and I have another 5 or 6 on the way. I have a couple printers behind me that I'm going to be making videos on. I've gotten a couple of Prusa's now, which are kind of the higher end 3D printers. For some reason, I think I have 6 3D printers right now. I'm going to try to get that down to 2 once I finish making all these videos. I've thought about making a series that's just like shit that I printed like this month or something, and just go over different stuff, show how it came out, and then have the files if anybody wants to print too. I know like when you first get your printer, you're like, oh man, this is awesome. And then like 2 weeks later, after you printed like 100 baby Groots and baby Yodas, you're like, what do I do with this thing now? And so, I'm definitely going to be doing more of that.
So it's interesting you say that because I've got a little Monoprice MP Select Mini over here. It's old and it doesn't do all the stuff I want it to do, and it's tiny. However, and I would really like to get one of the new Prusas because I feel like they'd be pretty fantastic.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you could see that.
Yeah, that's pretty dope. That's pretty dope.
Had to do a little Johnny Five.
So interestingly enough, I at some point decided that I don't know. I got into this mode of can I shop on Thingiverse, right? Like I'm pretty notorious about going on Amazon and spending like $5, $10, $15 like it's nothing, and you end up with like 7 different adapters or cables or something that you just can't use and don't need. And so I started reframing it as how can I basically print what I would need, what I might buy. And that has gotten me into a very interesting state in printing, where it's like I stop and think about, okay, could I print this thing that I'm looking for? Like, can I print it as opposed to buying it? And like case in point, I was talking to Nurk, and he's got all these rails up at the top, and he can like move lights around. It's effectively rigging, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but the rails themselves are actually pretty damn expensive. And there's adapters that go with them. And so, at the end of the day, I mean, this isn't a huge room, but I'd probably spend a few $100s to outfit this with rigging, but I really could use like some extra lighting to do like a hair light or whatever. And I started thinking about it, and I was like, it's really dead simple to run wires, right? Like the thin little wires that you stretch between loops and then you just tie them off. And I started thinking, I was like, could I print something that I could then attach a light to? And I'm like, yeah, actually, that wouldn't be hard. And you just have to do something where basically you use tension to hold, effectively a block against the ceiling. You're good to go. And so that would be $5 to $10 worth of stuff to get what I wanted, as opposed to hundreds. So,
yeah, for sure. That's kind of my my standard answer now. Walking through the aisles of TJ Maxx with the wife, and it's like, every time she picks something up, I'm pretty sure I could print that.
Yes, babe.
Which, a few years ago, I got into woodworking. I bought all these tools. I made like one table that she let me put in the house. I never made anything else again after that. And so I think she learned her lesson. Like, don't ever take me up on making something for the house.
Yeah, yeah. It is. I have actually printed a few things for the house where it was like, oh yes, I can
Oh yeah,
prove
yeah.
to
It's
her
like a
it's not a
superpower.
toy
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
I printed
Yeah.
this or no this. Where is
Yeah.
it? The
So
Mandalorian.
Travis Stevens actually has a funny point, which is like most of the stuff a lot of the stuff you print could actually just be done easily with woodworking. Um, that is okay. So
Very true.
not 100% true, but yes. Uh, However, I have no tools. Like a printer is $300 for an okay one, right? $300 for a decent one. I would have to literally go out and buy more than that in tools to be able to do what you're talking about with wood. And I'm
Yeah,
just
that's a
not.
good point.
I have a hard time handling wood. I don't know, man. It's difficult for me, right? I find they're often bigger than I think. Uh, so, all right. Cat has here. Here's the fun question for the moment. Would you rather, John? You go first. Would you rather fly a Mavic Mini 2 for the rest of your life, or a 4S analog 5-inch with an XM Plus receiver and 100 sets of props for the rest of your life?
I would probably go with the freestyle quad. When I first started flying drones, I wanted a Phantom, and I bought a cheap drone to learn how to fly, and then I got the Phantom. And after I had taken like really amazing footage of my neighborhood, like 5 times, I was like, okay, what do I do with this thing now? It just kind of got boring. It was,
Mm-hmm.
but I really like flying the freestyle drones, analog and 100 sets of props. I have a good idea of how long that would last me. I have ordered, at least for my crew, like 1,000 sets of props that showed up at my doorstep in these huge boxes, like
Mm-hmm.
stacked this high. And I think I ordered 200 sets that time, and it lasted me a little over a year. So 100 sets might not might not be that long. I'd have to really fly them down to the nubs. But yeah,
So
it would be frustrating now that I've had DJI. If I never had DJI, I could do it all day.
yeah. So I don't have DJI. I really want it. I don't have it yet. Children are expensive. Kat is basically asking, would you rather fly this drone for the rest of your life with 100 props or a Mavic 2, a Mavic Mini 2? So my answer to that is I'm going to pick this because if I put a GoPro Hero 8 on it, I guess a 9 would work too. And by the way, this is 4S, it's 5-inch. I fly my props to death. Primarily because it doesn't matter. Like these aren't like if you know anything about the props, these are S3 and S4 mixed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once you get to the Hero 8, it's like super cheater mode, and it doesn't really matter what your props look like. You can just fly. I mean, as long as the prop actually like generates lift, you'll be fine. So that's what I'll do. Now, if the question was, which one do you think you can make more money with? I can make more money with the Mavic 2, with the
Oh
Mavic
yeah,
Mini 2.
for sure.
So, but for fun, I'll take the FPV drone. Let's see. 100 sets of props is like knowing when you're not. Yeah, Jack Fu, you're right. Like 100 sets of props, it'd be like. I did read about one guy who was he made forms, and then he like I don't know how he did it, and it's been a long time, but he effectively pressed out a form for the props that he liked, and then like molded them basically, and then would end up melting all of his old props and rebuilding the props that he wanted. So you could go that route. You could go that route. So
That's pretty smart.
then your 100 props would last far longer. So, right, the mini you get forever, the other maybe a year. So let's see. What do you think are good questions to ask, John?
To ask, what are good questions?
Yeah, just in terms of YouTube, and then we'll start talking about more FPV stuff.
Well, there's like the top 3 questions I see in the No Small Creator group are, or like the top 3 posts I see are, hey guys, I haven't made a video in 2 years, but I'm really excited. I'm going to start doing stuff. And it's like, no, you're not. Why did you come here and even
Mm-hmm.
post this? Because you know you, and I learned this, I forgot where, but it's like you get the same or a
Yeah.
similar endorphin rush in your brain from just saying you're going to do something but not
Yep.
actually doing it. And I feel like people go do that constantly. And
Right.
there's a couple of repeat offenders. I'm not going to name any names, but they do that about every other month or so. They're like, oh
Uh-huh.
man, I still never got around to making that video, but it's coming really soon. I'm really excited, guys.
Just want to let y'all know.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's like, okay, should we all pat you on the back because we can't watch what
Right.
you didn't make? So that's like, stop talking about it and just do it.
Yeah.
Stop trying to be a perfectionist about it. You know, done is better than perfect whenever perfect doesn't exist, and that's exactly why on those first videos I did that for a whole year. And I think about sometimes if I would have started my channel a year earlier,
Mm-hmm.
how much bigger it got, because in that year that I was waiting, a lot of people were growing bigger and bigger and
Yeah.
bigger. And they've kind of capitalized on a lot of that viewership that I'm kind of grinding away and struggling to try to chip away at. And so like I would
Mm-hmm.
have been way farther along if I would have just done it instead of just thinking about doing that.
Yeah.
And I should have known that, because that's a lesson a former mentor boss I had a long time ago
Mm-hmm.
gave me. And because I waited till the day after budget was done to try to ask for a promotion.
Oh,
And I was, you know, I
damn.
was younger and I didn't know any
Right.
better. And he was like, what are you doing? He was like,
Yeah.
I
What
could
are you
have just
doing?
got that into the budget. And I was like, well, I didn't want to ask for money while you're already asking for money. It in my
No, you.
brain. And it was like, hey, guess what? I'm not thinking around at home. Like, you do a good job, but I'm
Yeah.
not thinking at night, like, oh, I wonder when I should give John a promotion there. And
Right.
it's like, no, you got to speak up. And every time I would ask him every few months, he was like, you know, if you would have just came to my office 2 weeks
Mm-hmm.
earlier and said what you wanted. So I've taken that, and it's like, quit
Mm-hmm.
thinking about what you want and go and do it.
Go get it. You know, and like this entire stream is based on that principle. Um, you and I have been talking about doing this for 3 weeks now, 4 weeks, and we've kind of been kicking it around. And then between the two of us, one of us set a drop dead date for today. I forgot. You asked, hey, when are we doing this? And I said tonight. This was at 4 p.m. my time. And so this was at 1 p.m. my time. And then you we jumped onto a StreamYard call. We filmed something for 5 minutes. I threw the video together, posted it, ended up screwing up the the link. This is actually the second one for this. But at the end, and it was a mad rush, right? It would have been great to have more lead time on it and be able to promote it more. But in this instance, started is better than not.
Right.
And so, for me, it was just kind of like, all right, let's just start. Right? Let's start. Maybe we can do this on a regular basis. Or, who cares? Let's start it and see where it goes. And so that's the exact same thing. You, I know a lot of times for me, starting is the hard part. And I've actually internalized what you're saying. Like, don't announce what your intentions are, right? Keep those under your vest. Go do it and prove to yourself that you can before you tell other people about it.
Right. Like, post
Yeah.
and show me the work and say, what do you
Yeah.
think? I'll watch it. I'll give you notes.
Yeah.
But don't tell me about how you're thinking about doing something. It just gets on
Mm-hmm.
my nerves.
Yeah. And to that effect, and I guess I'm breaking the rule a little bit here. I am going to release a totally different style video. I wanted to get better at shooting, and I wanted to incorporate some other goals into it. And so I've embarked on this exercise challenge for myself, and I'm nailing it. Right? I'm doing really well. I've also been filming bits and pieces of it so that I can turn it into a different form of content. And like to be able to get better at shooting. And so at the end of January, I will post what happened in January.
Nice.
With the intention, like I said, I'm breaking the whole premise here, but you get the point. So, oh, by the way, the guys, so I'm going to take a side note. The guys are talking about molding. Dude, molding is so freaking easy. Like, it's ridiculous how easy it is. Just go get, I have some mold down there. I've been messing with it a little bit. Um, get an easy 2-part mold that's, one part for one part. They're a little bit more expensive, but you can like literally there's a bunch of different ways and yeah, mold casts come in different variants, and I get that, but like it's molding's not that hard. Like I was shocked, and like at this point, if I needed to mass produce a bunch of things, I wouldn't just print them all. I'd print one or two and then mold them and do it that way. So all right, D-Dub, that's a great question. D-Dub wants to know, what's your 5-year plan?
So I've been thinking about this the other day, and whether I should set a goal for um, like what type of revenue I want to get, what type of growth I want to see, what type of abilities I want to have as far as the type of content that I can make. And I think things like how much to grow are really tough to kind of quantify because you never know if you're going to take off or not. I would like to be able to hit 10,000 by the end of this year, and in 5 years, maybe like 100,000 if I'm still like engaged enough to be doing it. I think I'd like to be able to just be still doing it in 5 years and see where it goes. It does seem to be growing, not as fast as I'd like, but at the same time, faster than I originally would have thought. And so, God, it's so hard to try to like put numbers on something like this because it ends up being like, can you get access early enough? Can you be interesting enough? Can you grow? And can you not burn yourself out and just want to like throw it all together to the side? So I guess the first thing would be like, I want to hope to be still doing it in 5 years. And then I'd like to grow by at least 50 to 80% per year. So,
I know for me, like I'm not a 5-year kind of guy. I typically do not set goals at all. And part of that is because for me, a goal feels like a fantastic way to fail. And a lot of that, which is like, to give you like, hello Carbon Cage, how you doing, buddy? To, to like give you insight into bits and pieces of my psyche. A teacher in my ninth grade, my English teacher in ninth grade, asked us to define hope. And so this is in Eastern North Carolina. Everybody's like basically writing out their favorite country song, And but I was a Nine Inch Nails fan, right? So my response was, hope is the last thing you feel before despair sets in. It was like, it was so dark. It was so dark. And my teacher was like, "Are you okay?" It's like, "Yeah, I'm fine. This is just."
wow.
So yeah. So for me, I'm not exactly setting a 5-year goal.
Thanks, Brits.
I can tell you, yes, thank you. By the way, if y'all have not subscribed to John, please do so now. And if you're not subscribed to me, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. So with I think the question, I think a better thing for me to ask is, I would love to take this into a full-time thing, right? Like that is my desire. I am good at what I do, but I've been doing it for 20 years. And if, a friend of mine asked me, he said, well, if somebody dropped $1 million into your bank account, what would you do right now? And the answer is I would invest it. I'd quit my job and I'd do YouTube for a living. And so based on that, it's like, okay, well, what do I have to do to make this a job? And so I'm actually starting to really think about putting those things into, into steps that are possible, right? And so like I'm not focused on subscribers. I really feel like I need to put out content, but also quality content. And so I've actually slowed down as a result, thinking about how do I start an LLC? How do I get more revenue streams? Things like that. So for me, I'm not going to say where I'll be in 5 years. I think it would be great if I was doing this full time. But I'm going to start just doing what I need to do now to get to where I want to go. Let's see. There was a question. Oh, I know, John. Here you go. How do you stay motivated?
Man, that's a tough one. And I think The key is having a channel around something that I actually like doing, and then just doing it, because like I'm the type of person that when I'm into a hobby, I want to try everything that comes out for it. So I
Mhm.
would, even if I didn't have a channel, I would still be wanting to try every new drone that came out and figure out what's the best one and try different ones. And like, I end up being kind of a gear whore on different things. Like, especially you can walk that line on camera gear, lenses and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And you start to really try to play that tightrope of, your hobby can split into two hobbies. It can be the hobby of actually doing it, and then the hobby of collecting the gear around it. So I really
Mhm.
try to, over years, way before I had a channel, to pay attention to that and try to focus on actually doing the hobby. And so I'm out there flying because I like to do it and I enjoy it.
Mhm.
And so that is really what kind of motivates me. I actually enjoy doing the videos too, but I'm real kind of always conscious of how much time I spend doing each one. And a lot of times, some of my racing guys will be like, you should have come to the race. You're making too many videos. But it's like, well, the time I'm making videos, I couldn't be flying anyway. It's usually like a
Yeah.
lunch break,
Yeah.
or late at night when everyone's gone to sleep. So it's like I'm not giving up any time to do the other thing. And I tell those guys, like, if I have 4 hours in a day, I'm always gonna go fly.
Mhm.
If I have time to go make a video or go fly, I'm always gonna go fly.
Yeah.
And that's how I stay motivated, because I actually like the thing that I'm doing, that my content's based on.
So this is for me. This is a trick question because I've thought a lot about this. Motivation doesn't exist. Motivation is not a thing. Um, motivation is what we call people that have a drive. Is what is the word that we attribute to people that have a drive to get something done. So it's easy to say that I'm motivated, right? Point of in actuality, as so far as I can tell, motivation falls into two categories. One is stubbornness, right? One is just being sheer hard ass stubborn, right? I have started this thing. I'm going to finish. I hate it, but I don't care. That is stubborn. The which I've been there. The other though is kind of what you were just touching on, which is desire, right? You enjoy the thing you do. You are loving the fact that you can fly, and then you get to make these videos, and the times don't necessarily overlap, and so you kind of feed one with the other. And for me, it's like I have to enjoy what I'm doing because I'm not stubborn enough to just grind it out, and that leads to burnout anyways. And so for me, the motivation is typically uh, I really like talking to people, and I really like making these things, so that works. So, um, Quadrophenia has a fantastic question. How much of YouTube's success depends on luck?
I definitely think luck is a factor. And I constantly compare myself. It just happened that another person in the FPV drone niche started, I want to say, the exact same month as I did back at the beginning of 2018, Zorro. And
Mm-hmm.
Zorro, like, I love watching Zorro. I've been trying to get him to design me a logo, because I have a really cool graphic that I had an artist friend
I
design
don't
for
know what
me.
you're talking about, man. Don't be looking at
I've been
me.
trying to get Zorro for a while though, just for like a simple logo,
Mm-hmm.
and but I've been watching him grow, and like, he did have the luck of meeting a lot of the Rotor Riot guys, appearing in some of those episodes, and I think he's really entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
He has just a natural way of like being funny. I think people feel engaged with him, and so like his growth is definitely deserved. But I do notice, like, oh man, he's grown like twice as fast as me.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
what am I doing wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Is it luck? And part of it's luck. Part of it's just that I think he's overall a more likable and engaging guy.
Mm-hmm.
But part of being at the right place at the right time. Like, I've seen luck that other people have asked me that are starting in the past year, and they can't seem to get much traction.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like looking to me, which is weird because I still see myself as pretty small, asking me questions. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I'll go look at their channel. It's like, whoa, man, you're doing all the right stuff. but it's just like, well, I started earlier, and it's always hard getting those first 100 and then the first 1,000 subscribers. And I was
Mm-hmm.
lucky to be loud enough or annoying enough to end
Mm-hmm.
up on your channel.
Yeah.
That helped me a lot
Mm-hmm.
last year, then ending up on Barbell recently. And part of that's luck, being at the right place at the right time. And part of it's actually saying, like, no, let's do this.
Here's my take on it is a bit similar, but I will take a little bit of hard work with opportunity over luck any day, because luck just happens to you, right?
Right.
You could be lucky and someone could just randomly walk down the street and hand you a briefcase with $100,000 in it. That would be fantastic. If you have no money skills, if you don't know how to invest money, if you have no idea what the value of the currency that you were given is, it's worthless. And it could very well destroy your life, right? Like you hear about all these people that win the lottery, and almost 100% of the time they're like, it destroyed, this is awful, I want to give it back, right? And that's kind of one of those things that plays out over and over and over again, right? Now for me, like there's this massive inflection point in my channel, right? It's when I interviewed Chad Kapper. But the thing that, and a lot of people just look at it and they're like, oh, well, I guess, Michael just got lucky. And I had an opportunity, and I had already set the path to be able to take advantage of that opportunity. And so like Chad and I had talked quite a bit prior to that. I had made the reason I got Chad's interest in the first place was I had made a video as soon as I heard about Tyler investing in Rotor Riot, and I basically
Oh, yeah.
explained, hey, this is why it was done, and this is why it's so good. And then in the comment, it was talking like, I think Chad Kapper's trying to exit, and I was like, I don't know. And then Chad's like, why don't you ask me? And so I was like, hey, I'll interview you, right? And then when I did interview him, and all of a sudden my subscribers went through the roof, there was like this domino effect of all my previous content had suddenly, all the numbers jumped because people started looking back to find out what I was about. And so I had laid groundwork pretty significantly for a while to be able to take advantage of that one opportunity that came by. I didn't know what opportunity was going to come by. I wasn't even really planning for it. I just knew that I was enjoying the thing I was doing. I was going to keep at it. And then it turned out that the opportunity came by and I was able to take it. So let's see. There is a fantastic conversation going on about CNC machines, which is pretty freaking awesome. Pretty awesome. So, all right. Tell you what, let's finish up with one last question. If anybody has a question they'd like to toss in real quick, please do. If not, I will finish us up with one question. John, I know you got a hard stop coming up pretty soon. So we'll give it about another 30 seconds. If somebody has another question that comes in, we'll preempt this. Let me think about does gear matter? Does gear matter? If I'm going to start a YouTube channel, should I go out and spend $1,000 or $2,000 on a really nice camera and some lenses and some streaming equipment and all that kind of stuff? Does gear matter?
Right. I would say gear 100% matters, but you should 100% not go out and buy a bunch of gear whenever you're going to start out. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, every time you get a new piece of gear, there's a learning curve associated with it. So, and you can really quickly purchase yourself way above your skill level, and then it might as well be nothing, because that gear is just going to be an anchor dragging you down. Because, I have a buddy like this that I see like amassed this huge studio of like synthesizers and stuff, but now it's like it takes 2 hours to set everything up before you can start working. And then I have another buddy that makes the same type of like EDM type music, and all he has is a headphones and a piece and a laptop. and he does everything, you know, in a DAW application. So it's like, work with what you have, master that. And what I try to do is integrate one new feature, one new piece of equipment at a time. So like I had all the gear, but I wasn't used to making videos like this quickly. So I just went to my cell phone. Once I was confident I could keep doing that, then I added my DSLR back in. Then I added a microphone. Then I started adding lights. And then after about a year and a half, my buddy that I fly with that's from Russia was like, why don't you ever show your ugly face on and so I was like, okay, well, I guess I should do that. And I was like, well, maybe it would be cool if there was something else in the background. So I started learning how to do the green screen, you know, but it's like, if I try to do all that from the beginning, I'd still be sitting there doing nothing. So I would say, like, make 5 or 10 videos with what you have, then slowly try to add one piece of gear at a time. I don't ever recommend adding like 5 things at a time. Even if you have the budget, learn how to use it, learn how to incorporate it, and learn so where it doesn't overtake your productivity. Because I could do all kinds of stuff on each video, but if it takes me 5 times longer to make each one, it's not worth it. And so that's my recommendation. You can fall down that rabbit hole real quick.
You can. So I will say this, right? Gear only matters when you realize why it matters. You can listen to a bunch of people tell you that you should go out and buy this Canon or Sony and buy all this glass, and you need this fantastic video or audio setup, and none of that will do you any good because you don't know why it matters, right? And so this is just like you, John. This is what I started on. Not this one specifically. Mine was like an iPhone 7 Plus, right? And I vlogged and did a bunch of stuff on that for a long time. And then one day I was like, my audio really could just be better. And at that point, it was like, how do I improve the audio? And so I looked at a few things. And then about the same time, I realized that, hey, I literally have the same shot over and over again. Super wide. I'm getting everything in the shot. I can't really do close up and macros and like B-roll type shot. And I know now why it's important. And so ultimately I ended up getting this little camera. It's like a $400 or $500 Lumix. It's not fantastic. And I got a Rode, like one of the Rode Dead Cat, the cheap ones. But that was good enough for a long time. And then one day I interviewed Bardwell, and I was like, man, you sound fantastic. And Bardwell was like, yeah, I'm on this mic. And then he messages me about a week later. He's like, what's your address? Well, he sent me the damn mic. But I knew what to do with it. Right? Like, my ear was trained at that point to know that his audio was so much better than mine, and I wanted my audio to sound like that. And then, you know, even recently, like for, you know, the grandparents couldn't be here for Christmas. And so I wanted to document the kids' Christmas. And I have all these phones, right? I don't know if you can see them over there. I got old phones and new phones, and I used to be an iOS engineer. And I thought about it, and I was like, you know, I can actually set up a couple cameras to roll while I'm doing like the handheld stuff. And so I was able to set up a couple, like I effectively was running a 3-camera setup. And in telling the story, it was so fantastic to have those extra angles. So now I know I would love to have multiple cameras, and I know what to do with them. Right? So a lot of it has to be, if you don't know why you need it, you don't need it. So, but there we go.
Good point.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tagging along this entire time. I really appreciate it. Thank you, John. This was a blast. I feel like we should do this again.
Yes. Stay tuned next time for more life advice, channel advice,
yes,
cooking advice.
Apparently, we should talk about CNC machines and 3D printers.
CNC machine advice.
Right, we're totally missing out on an entire market right here.
I missed that old Music Factory CNC,
yeah. Yeah, right? Oh, yeah, there you go. So, all right, folks. Well, thank you so very much. Y'all Enjoy it. This is not the Michael Rollins show. I don't know what this is. Who knows? Maybe we'll host this on John's channel next time. Talk to y'all soon. Bye.
Thanks, guys.